नमस्कार. राजभाषा संचालनालय आणि राष्ट्रीय अनुवाद मिशन केंद्रीय भाषा संस्थान मैसूर हांच्या जोड पालवान आयोजित केल्ल्या अनुवाद कुशळटायेचेर व्याख्यानमाळेन तुमकां सगळ्यांक येवकार. आयज आमकां मार्गदर्शक म्हणून लाभल्यात विन्स्टन क्रूज, जे राष्ट्रीय अनुवाद मिशनान चीफ रिसोर्स पर्सन आसात. अनुवाद मनीस करता, जाका आमी अनुवादक म्हणटात. पण अनुवाद करताना जायते फावटी मनशाक काय उपकरणांची गरज लागता. ह्याच उपकरणा विशीं आयज आमी जाणून घेतली. कॅट टूल्स, OMEGAT, तशेंच ट्रॅडोज ह्या सारकिले टूल्स आयज आमी जाणून घेतले. आमकां गुगल ट्रान्सलेट हे खबरूच आसा, पण ताच्या भायर कितलेशेच अणकाराक आदार करपी टूल्स आसात. विन्स्टन क्रूज हे आमकां ताचे विशीं आयज मार्गदर्शन दितले. सगळ्यात पयलीं हांव विनंती करता राजभाषा संचालनालयाचे संचालक प्रसन्न आचार्य हांकां तांणी प्रास्ताविक उलोवप करचें.
नमस्कार, तुमकां सगळ्यांक येवकार. The Directorate of Official Language is established for development and implementation of official language in the state of Goa. The core competency of the department includes imparting training of basic knowledge of Konkani language, so also assisting various departments of state and central government in translation of various documents including acts, rules, schemes, citizens' charters, etc. The department has also taken the initiative of coining of scientific and technical terms in Konkani language in collaboration with Commission for Scientific and Technical Terminology, New Delhi. Some of these are already published and others are at final printing stage. The department publishes research-oriented books. This department has also taken lectures on basic Konkani language and language orthography. This department is in the process of preparing a basic learner's course in Konkani language and printing it in book form. Since translation work has tremendous potential in the era of social networking and artificial intelligence, it was felt necessary to collaborate with National Translation Mission, Central Institute of Indian Languages, Mysuru, and conduct lecture series as a part of promotion of translation culture and emerging translation industry among the budding translators as well as amateur and professional translators. The lecture series aims to create awareness about translation, develop skills of translation, above all, improve quality of the translation by facilitating the translators to find key to the minds of the author of the material which is translated, retaining the soul of the original work in the body of the translation undertaken by the translators. I am optimistic that this lecture series will benefit the budding translators and will be a turning point in creation of the translation industry. Thank you.
देव बरें करूं सर. आयचे मार्गदर्शक विन्स्टन क्रूज हांची तुमकां थोडक्यान वळख जावची हाचे खातीर हांव मागता आमचे कनिश्ठ भाशांतरकार पांडुरंग नायक हांचे कडेन तांणी तांची वळख करून दिवची.
नमस्कार. आयच्या सत्राक आमकां श्री विन्स्टन क्रूज हे मार्गदर्शक म्हूण लाभल्यात. विन्स्टन क्रूज हे राष्ट्रीय अनुवाद मिशनात चीफ रिसोर्स पर्सन आसात. 2002 वर्सा सावन ते CIIL कार्यरत आसात. लॉंगमॅन NTM-CIIL इंग्लिश तामीळ हे शब्दकोशाचे ते सहाय्यक संपादक आसात. कॉम्प्युटर एडेड ट्रान्सलेशन, टर्मिनोलॉजी ट्रान्सलेशन, लिंग्विस्टिक थियरी फॉर ट्रान्सलेटर्स अशा साबार अनुवाद विशयांचेर तांणी व्याख्यानां दिल्यात. तशेंच प्रशिक्षण शिबिरांनी तांणी मार्गदर्शन दिल्लें आसा. विन्स्टन क्रूज हांणी साबार राष्ट्रीय स्तरावयल्या संस्था खातीर पेपर सादर केल्यात. NTMच्या सर्टिफिकेशन फॉर ट्रान्सलेटर्स प्रोग्राम हाच्या पायलट कमिटीचे ते वांगडी आशिल्ले. ओमेगा टूल्स, मेमसोर्स, मॅटकॅट ह्या सारकिल्या कंप्युटर टुलांचो अणकार तांणी केल्लो आसा. आयज ते आमकां कंप्युटर एडेड ट्रान्सलेशन ह्या विशयाचेर मार्गदर्शन दितले. देव बरें करूं.
Dev Bare Guru Pandurang Bab. The topic of today's lecture is Computer Aided Translation Tools, OMEGAT. Now I request Winston Cruz to kindly deliver the lecture. Thank you, sir.
Hello?
Yeah, you're audible.
Thank you for those kind words and introducing me. So you're all at the end of this webinar. You've gone through many lectures. So it's time to get hands-on training on some of these tools. So since we are living in an age where we use machines so much, and we take help of machines and we use them so much in our everyday life, and especially after this pandemic, and we are even meeting only through these technology devices. It's time now that we start using them in a better manner to help us in our day-to-day activities and even specialized activities like translation. Since many of you are translators, and you may be already using many of these tools, and some of you may be simply using MS Word or something like that. So therefore, this morning, I've been given this opportunity to share with you about this CAT tools, right? So far, we had, my name is Winston. Let me once again say that I'm with National Translation Mission. I want to thank the Directorate of Official Languages, Goa, that they have invited me for this lecture, and even the organizers there and organizers at National Translation Mission. I want to thank them all before I begin my lecture. So this is your thing, computer assisted translation. That's what we call a CAT. So far we had a mouse in our systems. Now we have CAT tool, right? So before I show you the tool as such, OMEGAT CAT tool, let me introduce you to some of the core concepts behind this kind of activity. One is that the basic idea of human-machine interaction, right? Okay, I'm on my second slide now. So I was telling you that so far we have used mouse. Now we are going to use a cat in the computer. So but this cat works with the mouse and a keyboard, right? So the basic ideas of human machine interaction, the benefits of it and the pitfalls of it, all of them are visible in this area too, right? So when you use a computer for translation too, then you'll have all these problems and all these benefits, right? So it makes life easy in one sense, and it also creates a lot of funny things. But one thing is that there are some, whenever we start using technology for something, there are some initial apprehensions, right? And myths are created around these things. So one myth about computers, using computers in translation, is they said initially when they looked at these machine translators, especially one based on the statistical models, they said computers can help in anything but translation. It can help you book tickets, it can help you type things, it can help you take a photograph, anything, mix a video, anything, but not translation, right? Except translation, it can do anything. So that was the idea initially. Like we had this when the mobile phones were introduced, right? See, you were asked not to switch it on when you are in a petrol bunk, gas station, right? And there were viral videos that if somebody switches on the mobile phone and receives a call in a petrol bunk, and then suddenly everything blasts, and such kind of videos you must have seen. But nowadays we pay at the petrol bunk with our phones, right? So things have changed. Nobody talks about mobiles being getting blasted in those places. So the fact is, machine can be used judiciously to help humans, right? So we are the people who are going to use it. So the way we use it will decide whether it is of help to us or it will, create problems for us. So in that, see, recently it happened somewhere, something became viral on Twitter, right? There was this photograph showed, like somebody went to a grocery shop and wanted to buy this batter, with which you make this idli dosa, right? The gold, that mixed solution. So he found it on the cover of that, dosa batter, idli dosa batter in English, then followed by Tamil, idli dosai iramavu, then in English, in Hindi, idli dosa balebaz, no? Idli dosa balebaz. So after this, loads of comments followed on social media. Idli dosa, right? And okay, batter, and balebaz kaun hai yahan pe? Like they went on, many things, like, so many people commented, and somebody said, it is really like expanding its market. It's becoming popular, idli dosa. That's why they want this kind of, things. Then somebody said, oh, this is the effects of Hindi imposition, in South India. Things like this, somebody asked, okay, if idli dosa is balebas, who's gainbas? So the idea is that there is something which is disastrous that has happened here, according to people, right? That's why there are so many comments. So who's the culprit? Immediately we point out to the machine, right? So, and we want to leave using these machines at once. We decide that these machines are of no help, and they will only spoil our efforts, right? They will spoil our lives, spoil our efforts, and only they can help only in creating some jokes on Twitter, right? So when these things happen, right? But instead of asking, my suggestion is, instead of asking, okay, batter is balebas or what, better to ask what can be done, right? So we know that it has to be either, the batter in Hindi should be either goal or better itself. Right? You translate it, right? Because many people now know what is batter. They use it for many cooking channels. They simply use batter in Hindi. Maybe वो लोग battery use करता है, right? So you use this batter, many things. For many things they say batter. So batter is a familiar thing for people who at least watch these cooking channels. So in that sense, now my idea is, like, if you have to now teach this machine, right, that it is not balebas, batter in this context, in the context of idli and dosa, it should be the the goal or the mix, right? So batter. So the benefit of using a machine is, if you correct it once here, right, the issue is solved forever in the machine, right? Once you go, like on the left hand side, you will see a familiar machine translator interface. So in that, if there is an option for you to enter the right option, right, and right equivalent, then you can go there and change it. And then if you have an option to verify it, it becomes a verified translation after you do that. So if this batter is now batter, now you see in the options below, you will find that still balebas, which is very frequent, right? Frequency level is 3, right? They've given. So it's a frequent option still available for that machine translator. But since you have given, a human being has gone there and entered batter transliteration and verified it, it will take that, right? It will give that as the first preferred option now, because it's a verified translation, right? But let's say the same kind of situation in your office, right, where there are many human translators are there, right? Now they encounter such a situation, right? It is possible that somebody still doesn't know what is batter, right? So they may still want to know what is here, and they may still be, thinking whether to use balebas or what, right? But you tell them, okay, batter is the goal that we use to prepare idli and dosa, right? So they know. Now, what about that person, right, when they leave the office and somebody else takes that chair, right? Is that knowledge passed down to the new person directly on that from by that chair where that other person she was sitting? No, it's not possible, right? Right. So for human translators, right, this is a small hurdle, right, to pass on the information to the next person, right? Because we are knowledge-oriented society and everything is in our brain, right? So we can't transfer simply things to others, right? The knowledge that we have gained. So when we want continuity, right, and when we want consistency, and we want it across, right, different things, different spheres, some of these, machines can help us, right, to do it better, and they may be limited in their usage, but if you understand their limitations, they can be used for our advantage, right? That's the point here, right? So in that sense, right, what we need is a machine memory, right? What we are talking about here is, right, the memory that is part of the machine, right? We normally say that humans can do everything that, like we try to, the superiority we want to always say, like, claim about humans, that humans can do everything that machines can do, but not vice versa, right? Machines are not intelligent. Machines can't do anything on their own. Humans have to operate it. Fine, right? So that is one thing. But machine memory is more stable and can be more useful for certain purposes. Like I said now, right? The chair doesn't pass on the information that the previous person knows what is better, and you should also know the same thing to the next person, right? But machine, whoever sits in front of the machine, everybody, like there may be 100 people changing, right? But the machine will still retain that, that batter is batter, like, in this language, or goal, or whatever, right? And the information is easily passed on to the next person, and it is not just to the next person, it is to the next generation, and even for the next hazard generations, right? It will remain the same, right? Unless something gets corrupted in that machine, the machine will go on repeating the same thing, right? Now there are limitations to it. This meaning of batter itself in the social life can change, right? So in other contexts, it has to be balebas, right, or something else, right? Like rain batters, Mumbai, or Panaji, or something like that. If you use a word like that, then you have to use a different words, right, as a verb. So those things are there, but for our purpose, what we are looking at now, that machine has helped, right, in using, like, or in creating a better translation, right? So that's the idea. So where is it useful? And in translation, right, where is it useful in translation, and in what format, right? If you say machine memory is useful for translation, and in what format, then we have this, right, question. See, generally they use, right, this kind of translation memories, right? Now machine memory is a common word, so I'm trying to enter into a technical word called translation memory, right? That's where we use this, right, where equivalence for a particular translation, right, which is already particular source and its translation, which are stored as a in a memory called translation memory. So there is where do we use translation memory? Mostly we use it in business to business, or business to consumer localization translation ecosystem, right? I'll go through it once again. Business to business, right? A company is trying to sell or exchange something with another company, right? That information, or a company, a business, right, entity, they are trying to reach out to a customer, right? And when they want to reach out to a customer of a different language and culture, of a different area, geographical location, then they are using translation, and they are creating translations of their product, and that translation, changing, shifting this product to the new locale is called, right, localization, right? Like you change its appearance, its the knowledge about it, and the like information that is carried about it, right? All the transactions around it, you shift it to a new locale, right? Location, geographical location in some other part of the world. So that localization ecosystem, right, to produce that, right, we use this kind of translation memories more, right? Like I'll give you an example. Like if you want to look at a health package, right, of a multinational health products company. These CAT tools, computer assisted translation or computer aided translation tools, right? CAT is used at the project level, right? They use it, right? Because there are different elements, like a product will be there, its image will be there, its documentation, its marketing information, right? The price and promos and many things like that. Like, you understand this, right? If there is a product and its image will be there, right? And you should know whether that image will fit to the new locale, or like, you'll change all these things, right? According to the place where you want to sell this product now, right? Introduce this product in a new locale. So it's documentation about that product, marketing information, where to get it, how to get it, where to service it, right? Where to buy it. And when you want to buy it, then there should be price. So you cannot sell a small, you cannot sell a shoe, right, from England in a pound price in Panaji, right, or in Mysuru, right? Here it has to be in the rupee, right? So all those conversions that need, right? So we are not talking about translation in this kind of localization, just as one equivalent for this word, or in this phrase is translated here, or this poem is translated. We are in localization, we are trying to bring out an entire product into an entire company, entire product to a new set of customers or a new set of business in a different location. So the promos that have to be used for it, all this, right? In those kind of systems, right, the translation ecosystem needs, like, they use CAT tools, right, the computer assisted translation tools. So the need for translation memory is in these kind of exchanges, right? So that is what we see. And you see, the example that I talked about, this is one localization content. Like, I just pulled it from the net. So it's about a health package for a company, right? And it is a full body checkup for women. So they have a package like this, and you see an image there, and a woman getting her blood pressure tested. And by the side, you have information on that, right? So, like, how popular these tests are, right? And how many people have looked at it. And this test, full body checkup, includes how many tests in it, right? Some, they have mentioned it, some 89 plus tests included, 300 plus booked in last 7 days, right? They are giving those statistical information. Then they're also saying this package covers what and all diseases, right? Immunity parameters, right? What kind of tests are done and what are being looked at here, right? And blood count and iron levels and vitamin D and all those things, right? Deficiency check. Then you see who is it useful for, and like all these things, right? So all these things are mentioned here. Then so this is what right? Okay, there is a content like this. Now we want you to show there is another content, right? Like, where there is another package, right, where they have a full body check for men, right? And you see this women, you have already seen that it says the number of tests and 300 booked and many things like this. You see the difference here, right? That it is almost the same content, right? Almost the same content, barring some 4 or 5 differences. So one is that in the top you see full body check men, right? There it was women. And then next one is, you see they have said booked 400 plus booked in last 7 days. So there it was some 300 something. Here 400 booked, 400 plus booked this test in the last few days. And you see the image also has changed, right? Now it is a male man sitting and getting the blood pressure checked, right? So the female image is changed. Then you have if you are a male above 18 years, there it was. If you are a female above 18 years, it was there. So the word male and female, that has changed, but the small images, icon like images, remain the same. Then in the last line of this package, risk assessment, cholesterol, last bullet point, if you see, risk assessment, cholesterol, diabetes, stress, prostate cancer, heart disease, all those things are given. So for the woman, it was the ovarian cancer. So in a women package, it was the ovarian cancer. Maybe I will go back to it. You see here, right? Here it was ovarian cancer. Here for the men it is prostate cancer, right? So everything else remains the same. Now, what is it that we are trying to say, right? In a place like this, right? The difference is where women, men, picture, then woman, man, that was there, like the woman, man picture, then ovarian versus prostate cancer, and female versus male, right? These are the differences we saw in these two packages, right? And the information on these packages. So the minimum change that is needed is given there, right? If you want to change something else, and in translation that you want to create something new there, that is up to you or up to the company to do that. But for us right now, the assignment would be to change only these things, right? And make the grammatical information agree with each other or something like that. Those kind of minor modifications that we need to do in languages where the verb and the noun will agree. You have to make those changes. All right. Apart from that, this is the minimum information that we need to change. So if the first document, if it is translated and reviewed, it can be part of the translation only. Like I'll repeat, if the one document, the first document, is translated and it is reviewed, let's say both are done by human, right? And it is made pakka, right? So one is translated, another person has reviewed, right? Seeing that everything is perfect for a health package, right? Everything is all right and correct, and the final format is fine. The same thing, it can be used, right? It can be part of a translation memory, right? And can be used with minor modifications for the next package, right? So this is how we use, this is what is stored in translation memory, something which is already translated and reviewed by a human being, right? Let's say, so that is actually populated, right? A translation memory gets populated as you go on translating, right? Creating new translations. So as your translations increase, your translation memory will increase and it will give you better results for your future work. So what we are trying to say is, we are not trying to use just machine translation as such, but we are trying to use translation that has been done by human beings in a particular context for a particular segment, and keep it as in the memory so that it can be used again with modifications, right? Or something else is required, that also will be done, right? So this is called, like when we want to introduce the old one, right, here, and then do minor modifications, it is called pre-translation, right? So what we are trying to do here is pre-translate the segment for the new package, right? You have done that for the women package, so you do it for the men package. So we come to the third core concept, okay, which is the pre-translation overview, right? I'll tell you about what is pre-translation. So by pre-translation, we mean the initial use of non-translatables, right? Like you had the image of the person, right? For women's package, the women package, there was a woman sitting there, and men's package, there was a man sitting there. So those kind of, they are non-translatables, right? You are not going to translate it. The translator is not going to look at it even, right? Unless there is something mentioned in the content about the image, right? So otherwise the translator will not see those things. For some cases, of course, it is better to give the translator like a screenshot of what that ad was, right? So that you are better and you understand the context better and translate it with any variation that is required, right? So non-translatables is one part of the pre-translation. Then you have this translation memory, right, which is already done. Then you can also use machine translation in certain contexts where it is useful, right? So where the machine will give good results and it can be useful, you can use that, right? And there is also like a possibility of human translation engines. This only a few, kind of like cattle producers, they use these kind of things because they want to auto-propagate, right, some of these translations which are already done. So that is part of the human translation engine, where the humans, see one line, and for the repeated ones, they'll not look at it and they translate one, the first, instance of that particular segment. So those things also you can use. and somebody else does that for you. And for the translator of the actual package, these things are pre-translated and given, right? So she has to just work on the variation, like, or the context where she has to change, right, to fit that content into for the new package. So against the source text, this is like this information I am not just creating on my own. I have taken it from like one popular cat tool maker, and it is from their help files. I have put these things. So I am not mentioning the name here because it's a product, and I'm not here to sell that product. Okay, then. So you can use the presentation. You can see that link, and you can go yourself and see that same page. So this is not my own information. It is taken from the net on the help file of a particular product. So pre-translation can be applied at the project level in the general settings. So project manager will do this, right? Apply the pre-translation and before giving it to the translator. So while creating a new project, the same can be used as a template for multiple projects, not just the next project. If some other projects are there of similar nature, so the same template can be used, right? That is why you see nowadays a lot of content which are not creative also. This is one drawback, right? Because people are localizing things, right? They want to keep this content in the similar manner. Like, if there is a website, right? And they want the same information to go into all other languages. So even the source content, they create it with this idea that it will be produced in different languages, and all so that the content will not be so creative and nativized, right? That it will not create problems for the translation into other languages. So it is creating some kind of restriction on the source creativity, of course, right? When you have this in mind, but some people, of course, they create it without keeping this in mind that it has to be translated, but then they go for creating a template for translation. So that is also both ways it is happening. So translators working on individual projects can also be given pre-translate option. So somebody may choose it and not choose it, right? So like, I want pre-translation before I translate. You can choose it as a translator, and you need not choose it also. Like, you can say, no, I want to translate it on my own without taking any help, without looking at others' translations, without looking at any template which is already existing. I will use my faculty to translate, right? I will use my knowledge and expertise to translate this and do that. So whatever may be the benefits of it or pitfalls of it, right? You'll have to take it from me. So that kind of decision can be taken by the translators. So how can we use this, right? So we have a translation memory. We have now the pre-translation template, right? And something that can be populated with that. So how can we use all these things, right? So with that, I move into the core concept 4 in using this CAT tools, right? And human-machine interaction and all these things, like which is the handling of the terminology, right? So we have, when we want to use CAT tools, we have like an idea of about 4 types of terminology, right? 4 types, apart from the idea that we may have about dictionaries, right? We always use dictionaries. Translators use bilingual dictionaries and monolingual dictionaries also, right? And they use it for their translation, and especially for words for which the scope is not known to them, or it, or right, even if they want to know the meaning, and in that particular context, something like that, the shades of different meanings of that word or that phrase, or for all those things they can use dictionaries. We are all using dictionaries, right, in a huge way. But in translation of localization content, right, more than dictionaries, they'll try to use glossaries, of course, right? Glossary, by glossary what we mean, shabdavali, right? That there is a source term and there is an equivalent to it. So one word against another word, right? So that is how glossaries work. So that is one thing. Second thing is term banks, right? What we call term banks. How is it different from glossaries? Are they different at all, right? They are not different in the information as such, But you see, in a term bank, the list of terms and their equivalents to be used in a project, right? So term bank is related or restricted to a project, right? When a project manager, so it is prepared by a team or the project manager, and it is provided by that commissioner to the translator, right? Commissioner, like whoever commissions that work to the translator, they assign this, they give this, right, list of terms and their equivalents to be used in that project, right? That is term bank, right? And there is also something called KNP, right? This comes of use in, again, in localization and in a lot of other things like subtitling, right? Subtitling. KNP is nothing but key names, right, or known names and phrases, right? It can also be said as known names and phrases, right? Key names and phrases or known names and phrases, right? I have not mentioned that here. So what is it, right, that we have to use there? Like if it is a subtitle of a documentary, right? So there may be products or there may be, promotional videos of a product. So what has to be kept as such, right? If there is a documentary on, Bill Gates, right, of Microsoft, you're on the Microsoft itself is a word that can be translated, right? Micro and soft, right? And Bill Gates is another name, which can be translated, but you're not going to do those things for that, promotional video about Microsoft, right? So you have to keep them as it is. So these are known names and phrases or key names and phrases which you have to retain, right, in that localization project. So that is how it is. So this is also given, for certain projects, right, particular projects. So we are talking about localization projects where apart from dictionaries, you may be using glossaries, term banks, right, and this known names and phrases, key names and phrases. Then you may also use terminology databases. What is that, right? Now we have already 3 with the same name almost, like, or the same content with different names. And 4th one, TDs, right? Now when right, a term bank is again a glossary like thing, but terminology database is built with little more information, like a dictionary, right? But restricted again to that, right? Confined or, like to that project, right? So it has that limitations of that project where you see the terminology databases are built with the domain names, right? This term belongs to which domain, right? And description. And we'll see all these things one by one, right? I'll give you examples for these things. Translation equivalents, transliteration schemes, all those things can be given in that terminology database. So let's say we are building a home, right? Or the content, localization content is about getting a home loan, right? Like how to get a home loan, like things like that. So you find in a dictionary the word for home, right? You'll find, something like a dictionary like Shapkosh or something like, anything that you use, right? You'll find a list of terms, right, mentioned. And especially if it is in Hindi, you have to say whether it is masculine or feminine, so that you use the right ending for the verb, right? Conjugation. So you have all these things, right, for each of this, for this word home, right? Vatan and Vastan and things like that, right? Swadesh, home, right? My home country, right? My homeland, right? Avas, of course, Chatravas, and Makan, Bhavan, Nivas, Desh, right? Desh again in the context of my country, right? India is my home, right? Chikana, right? Like this. Ashray, right? Ghar and Gol and Grh, right? So we normally will say, if like a normal, speaker of the language would immediately, like if you ask for an equivalent for, what is home, we'll say Makan or, Makan dhoond rahe hain, right? Like you may say that, or Ghar dhoond rahe hain, right? Ghar or Makan will be the most common things that people say. And of course, when you are having a housewarming in South India, we call it Graha Pravesh, right? We use that Graha word. We will not say Gar Pravesh or Makan Pravesh, those kind of things, right? Then home is also your family, right? Right. My home and is here in Mysuru, and my family lives here. So you use the word, right, Kutum for that. Then Janmabhoomi, all these things. So this is all there in your dictionary, right? And each entry will have in a dictionary extra information like home. Okay, if it is Gar, if you click on Gar, then you'll have that it's a noun and it is male, and घर का pronunciation आ जाएगा, then its definition will come, right? It is a place where people live and rest and kind of, right, where we live, right? And its usage and many other information can be added. Image can be there, and in a pictorial dictionary, all these things, and different types of houses and different names for different types of houses. All those things can be added in a dictionary. But in a glossary, you'll find, okay, if it is home, then you have one word, right? Home, ghar, home, grah, home, awa, home, makan, like that, right? Against each one equivalent for that, and nothing else, right? Nothing else in a glossary. You will not have anything else added to that. But in a term bank, right? I'm giving you the term bank. You'll have gar, home for gar, and home loan. You see here, because it is restricted to a project and it is given by the commissioner, right, of that project. So they have given you ideas like, okay, this is what you have to use in a home loan. You like, if they want to keep it as something that needs to be used as it is, so they'll say home loan, okay, because that is readable and familiar to people, easily accessible, like, than something called Grun or Run, they say, like, for home loan. No? So those kind of things, better than that, home loan, keep it home loan as it is, keep it simple and easy for people. So that is one way to do it. So that is how it will appear in term bank. Now let's look at the KNP, right? Known names and phrases, or key names and phrases. See, if there is a documentary on the British PM, right, Alexander Home. There was, like, Prime Minister by name Alexander Home. He was the the Home Baronet. He came from that background. So if there is a documentary on it, right, so there you have to keep Alexander Home as Alexander Home, right? You cannot change it, right? You have to transliterate the name Alexander Home, then that will be given to you as, like, don't change this, right, in your translation. So Alec Douglas Home, then they'll again transliterate it and give you, right? If the same thing is a documentary on the Greek ruler Alexander, right, then again it will be, right, Alexander. In Hindi, of course, we have another word, Sikandar, right? So how we want to, according to the intent of the producers, right, whether to keep Alexander as Alexander or Sikandar, right, will be given to the translator. So I hope, like, if there is any information that you want to pass on, you just message me in this, right? So I hope you are able to follow this. Okay. So then Alexander, like, so if it is a documentary on Alexander the Great, then you may have to keep Sikandar Mahan, according to, like, how they want to, the producers want to project this film or things like that. Alexander the Great, right? They may want to retain Alexander the Great, right? So those things can be there as it is, right? So that is one thing. Then so this is part of the I'll go back to that slide. Known like, names and phrases, right? So you can see that, right? So you can use, like, the translator may have to use any of these things. Okay, then the same thing in a terminology database, right? What does it show, and what does it have as information? So you have home button, let's say a word like home button. For the same home, right, you will have something called home button, right, because it is related to a app or something like that. A web page or content is related to that. So you have a home button. So its grammatical category will be given, which is noun or verb or whatever, right? Here in this case it's noun. And what you have to use, right? The equivalent for it, home button. For this project, they want to use it as home button, right? In some other languages, they may want to change it, but many Indian languages, they keep home. But for instance, in Tamil and all, we have a word for it called muhappu, right? Which is we say as face, the front face or something like that, right? So we may use that. But in Hindi, most of the cases I have noticed that home is, in web pages, it is retained as home. And so then they give the domain, right, information, that it is user interface, right? So it's an app or something and user interface. So this is a button placed on the top left. They have given the description of it. Button placed on the top left corner of the app, and clicking on it may take you to the front page or view of the app, right? So they have given that, right? What will happen in that, and when you click on that, and even that, right, that information they know. The function of that button also they have given you, right? So this is part of the terminology database. So you see the difference, right? Till now, what we have seen, right? So first one we saw like the dictionaries that we use, and like in that all information from pronunciation to everything was there, grammatical category and usage and things. Glossaries we had equivalents, right? And term banks, of course, equivalents, but restricted to that project, and it is given by the commissioner to you, right? The project commissioner, PM, project manager, whoever is dealing with you. Then we had KNP, right, for documentaries and many other things where you have to retain those names, right, and they are names and it is given to you as a pre-given knowledge, right? So you have to retain those, Alexander the Great or Sikandar or whatever, right? Alexander Home you cannot translate like Alexander Grah or something like that, right? Those kind of things. Then terminology database, of course, for home button, right? It is like that. Suppose if it is on housing, right? The web page is an information on the housing, right? How to get a house loan or something like that, apply for a house loan. Then home loan, that word home loan is like you encounter that home loan, and its grammatical category will be there, and home loan, right? The equivalent also they want to say, not grin, but say home loan, because it's a web page and it should be easy for the reader to know and immediately apply for the home loan, right? Make things easy for them to apply for. So she doesn't have to struggle and go to a user, doesn't have to go to a dictionary or something to see what it is, right? Or there should not be any ambiguity in it, right? So what is easy, right? And if she goes to a bank and asks somebody or meet someone to talk about it, what will they use, right? What terms they will use. So what is in usage, right? And what is most popular and most easily understandable. Like they'll apply many criteria to this and create a terminology database for that work, right? Or similar works by a particular company. Like they'll do that, right? Translation localization project, they'll create such terminology things. So banking, a loan scheme for individuals, right? The domain is banking, of course, and like a loan scheme for individuals or groups to be availed for constructing, building, constructing or building, which can become a residency which can become residencies for families, right? So that way a terminology database is built. So then we have another core concept, right, called now the machine translation, right? Many of you must have used this, like popular translators, right, produced by Google and Microsoft and Yandex and some of them, like that my memory translation. You must have used many of these things, Babel, and especially for European languages they are used very much, and because the results are good. And nowadays many of them use it for Indian languages too, because many of them have increased their the results, right, improved, right, their results very much. And what has changed there is, like initially when we had machine translation, there were a lot of jokes coming out of it, right? The machine translation results were so funny, and like I showed that idli dosa batter became idli dosa balebas, in some language like in Hindi. So that kind of examples were thrown out, and many threads were there, and people were like, it all went viral, that kind of jokes. That time, like if you see, one of the major things, like when we started with this kind of machine translation things, the model that was used was statistical translation, right? Statistical machine translation, which is called SMT. There was another model called RBMT, rule-based machine translation, and statistical model was one of them, right? Another model, right? And people with a lot of money and like Google and other people, they ventured into that, and they got corpus, and they'll simply create statistics out of it, and they'll try to give you, okay, if the word blue moon appears many times together, then okay, like okay, blue will get this meaning, moon will get, like it will automatically, like it will try to match the statistics and what is coming, in proximity with which word and in which phrases. Like this, it will go on creating statistics, and it will try to give you a answer based on that. Like, and there will be parallel corpuses, and they'll be looked at in both these things, and things like that were created. So we had, like at one point of time, right, one popular translator, like machine translator, online machine translator, will give for a word, like we have tested this, that's why I'm giving you this. One of my colleagues, her name, she was the team leader at that time, her name was Shijila. So this is Shijila. If you say, if you give that sentence, it will say is Shijila hai, because it associated this word in Hindi, right? It associated as like this book, right? The demonstrative pronoun, right? So this is Shijila. So ye kitab, that kind of. So is kitab ko padho, that kind of, right? So it said, not instead of ye Shijila hai, ya Shijila hai or something. Instead, it used to say is Shijila in 2009. But in 2020, it of course changed, right? As the information, the statistics changes, right? The proximity with different constituents changes, right? This it started giving proper sentences, like for yes Shijila, like because many of us have corrected that kind of things also. So all this like that changes happen in statistical models when you give more information to it, right? More what kind of things for the machine to learn, of course, right? But still it was not very satisfactory, right? So what they shifted to now is from statistical machine translation. They have tweaked it, and they've gone, initially they thought they will do a hybrid between rule-based machine translation and statistical machine translation. Of course, that didn't work out much, I believe. So they have gone more towards neural machine translation now, right? What they call neural machine translation, right? They create neural networks between elements. Now, this is not this neural MT, right? Or neural learning, right? Machine learning, auto learning, right? Or what do you say, like it learns from corpus. This is not just restricted to or constrained to language alone, right? It is for anything that the machine is trying to read, right? It can be images, it can be things. It will put everything together. It will try to match again, right? What is at proximity with each other. Then it will create a network, right? So it is called like neurons, right? So there are internally and externally connected neurons, right? So these neurons are actually language-free neurons. That's how they project it, right? They call it language-free neurons themselves, and these neurons will have weightage, right? According to again the statistics, but this statistics will not just depend on what the machine has learned, right, on its own from a corpus, right? But it will also depend on, right, how the machine has been trained, right? So there you can also feed in a training set to this, right, learning, and you can also use a testing set for the same statistics that machine has learned, right, in a kind of unsupervised learning or supervised learning. Then you also put it to a training test, right, set, right, and testing set, right, so that the results are pruned, right? The results, better results are brought out from this. So they have weightage, right? The neurons themselves have weightage, and there is also like all these connections that it has with other neurons. They also have weightage, right? That's why you see in this picture, like there are a lot of lines going, officer here and there, like all those things. It is a mesh, right? And you see some lines have gained weightage, right? So I've used the same word, like which I began with the phrase idli dosa batter, right? If you say idli dosa batter, then on the right side you have many things. Okay, nashta, right, in the source language and the target language. One side is the source language, another side is the target language. You have, let's say, Hindi. In Hindi you say nashta, then something like Bharatiya, something, because it is Indian food, no, like, so something that also maybe there in that. Then balebas, batter, is there. Batter, of course, we have. Then dosa is there, goal is there, many things like that. So in this you see some lines connecting this dosa and with other things also. Like dosa is also Indian, right? Dosa is also part of nashta. Dosa is also, part of like related to batter. Dosa is also dosa, right? In fact, in Hindi, they mostly call it dosa, right? So, dosa, right? But you see, the dosa to dosa is like, having, neurons which are like, big and like in size, we see like so that it represents its weightage. And also the lines have more weight, right? They're bold. The lines which are connecting this dosa to dosa, right? In Hindi, they are connected in a more visible manner, right? So the same manner, like you see, batter is connected to both the transliteration batter and also the word ballebaz, right? Cricket batsman, right? So you have, because especially it is gaining more popularity now, batter, because we don't want to have that, gender, right, specified in that thing. Now women's cricket is becoming so popular, so we don't want to say that, Mithali Raj is a good batsman or something, or batswoman, try to, give her thing. It's not like that. So we don't want to call postman, right, anymore. So like all those things, right? Chairman. So we want to call them chairperson or a batter, right? Or actor. No more actress, right? Everyone is an actor, whether they are male or female, they're actors, right? So when we want to like have this gender parity and things like that in terms, right? So of course, batter is more used than batsman now. Like let's say in future they'll be using batter as a cricket batter, right? They'll be using. So ballebaz is a very genuine equivalent for that, right? But in a context, right, of nashta, right, which is there in the same, sphere, and this batter will go to when there is idli also around. I'm sorry, excuse me. Idli is there, dosa is there. Then when the batter, idli, dosa batter, right, when it comes, then the batter actually picks up the transliteration batter. Because you see in many of this cooking, like I've said already, many of these cooking, programs and other things, they simply use batter, right? If you watch Pankaj Kapoor or anybody like, on screen, right, they'll be using batter. Nobody uses ghol, things like that. So batter is better connected. So like I said, if you take that mesh out, we know that, okay, this is the connections, and this connection goes through a training set and a testing set, right? It is not simply taken as it is put through a training set, right? Where you have, training set is what? Where established, right, translation equivalents are there, and you know that, okay, this is what is the informed translation of this particular phrase, right? Those kind of matches that you have, which is verified, and those things can be used like for the machine to learn from, right? And testing set, of course, its results can be tested, and it can be, again, the input from the test can be given to it, so that the results are, again, bettered, improved, right? So that way you have a training set, and this neural machine translation has gained more popularity now, and that's why you see better results in the online, like machine translators which use this, NMT. You see results are better now for simple sentences and even some difficult ones, and they are more readable than what humans can sometimes do, right? They are, because they get a bigger training set and they get a bigger, corpus to learn from. And many of this, like, like I said, there is unsupervised learning. Then then there is also supervised, training and testing these machines go through, right? So this is all now made part of this, some of these CAT tools that we are going to use, right? Like some CAT tools, they, along with that, they sell these packages, right? So that you can use them and you can train them, right? You can train your machine and like for that particular, between languages for that pair, and you can use these NMTs, right? So something like let's say a taxi aggregator, right? Like Ola or Uber, or Uber, these people, like in their, thing, or something like the food, delivery systems like Zomato or Swiggy or something, they'll have their delivery, right? In that their system, a delivery different from a medical domain, right? Delivery, which is like, labor that woman undergoes and gives birth to a child. This is not the delivery, and this is like, it is trained according to this like delivery where the food package is delivered, right? So it is according to that. So those things, like, according to domains, these are trained and tested, right? Those things are now being used and they are becoming very popular and quite useful, right? Neural machine translation, NMT. So I wanted to introduce that also to you. Now, right, now in India, you see, we are going a little beyond time, I think. So we have to look at the tool as such. So let's say, okay, in India, there is this Indian Languages Corpora Initiative, right? ILCA, funded by, Government of India and done by this Department of Electronics, right? Where the trained linguists are working on creating parallel corpora, right? And they will be used as benchmark translated sets for machine learning, right? It's covering 17 Indian languages. So something very big is happening on that front. And in like CIIL, Central Institute of Indian Languages, has a project called Linguistic Data Consortium in Indian languages, where a lot of corpus in Indian languages have been, like developed, and they are also into now like trying to establish parallel corpus, right? They are trying to look for the source texts and trying to match them, things like that. So there are many things like coming out of that. National Translation Mission has produced a lot of translations now and will be producing a lot of translations, which are all like available in soft formats. So we can also venture into this kind of in the future, right? NTM has a plan for creating parallel corpus, which can be used as this training sets and testing sets, especially for academic translations, right? So many of these things are happening. So I'm just moving out, like, so where is it now, right? You see, I'll give you one example. This is one of the covers, right, of NTM books, right, called Indian Constitution, Cornerstone of a Nation. Right now, if you have your app and a machine translation, popular, online machine translator, you can just take a picture of that cover and it will translate everything on that cover to you. You can select the words, whatever you want to translate, or the entire cover you want to just translate, right then and there, right? It can translate and give you. So for instance, like here, it has given, right, Bharatiya Samvidhan, Rashtra Ki, Adarshila, it has given Indian Constitution is the cornerstone of the nation, right? If you see this is the cover of a text, and the original cover is Indian Constitution, cornerstone of a nation, then you may not, like, you may think that, okay, this has not given the exact result. It is, but if you, for a common man or a woman, right, who goes to a bookshop to buy something and wants to know, but can't, like, knows, like, wants to buy for her son or daughter or a book on Indian Constitution, but can't read Devanagari. Those people can use these kind of things, and they'll get a basic idea of what this book about, right? Like Indian Constitution is the cornerstone of nation. They know, okay, it is about Indian Constitution. It is something that is very basic to that subject. They're like that. They can get a basic idea, right? So, like the same thing. We used another, like, the same way we use the what is that, the machine translator app, right? And to translate it right there, and it produces this same image and the background, and in that place itself, in place that it translates, and it shows Indian Constitution, foundation of the nation, right? Cornerstone of the nation, foundation of the nation. So the like words are better aligned, because like you see the like there are two lines in it. First time when we chose it, we chose the words together, so they came like that, and it produced a sentence for us. Indian Constitution is the cornerstone of a nation. But here it is showing Indian Constitution separate, right, line, alage, then next line is foundation of the nation. So then the author name, everything is coming, right, translator, right, all those things. So, and if you tilt it little, of course there will be funny results, right? Bharatiya, like, will become load or something like that, load Constitution and things like that, right? So the fun part is not to be misinterpreted. You may have to kind of use it judiciously. That's our idea. So in a computer program, right, which we call a CAT tool, right, all these things are used, right, together, the dictionaries or the glossaries, the descriptions, the machine translation, right, and the TMs, they are used, translation memories used with something called a fuzzy logic. They say fuzzy logic, try to, that is again statistics, of course, nothing but statistics, right? And the CAT tool uses all these things. So when you use, like, for instance, you use, when you want to type a letter, right? Or write something and produce an article, right? You use something like Microsoft Translator, and you use not Microsoft Translator. You use directly, like if you want to write an article or a letter, you use Microsoft Word, right? There you get like your help, like in the form of a dictionary, right? And there is also formatting, right, which can be done, right? All those things, right? So you have some kind of help, right, from the thing, and you can delete, you can search, you can find many things, right? You can change words like that, after completing the letter, right? So the machine helps you those things. Like that, for translation, this is again a CAT tool, is something that pulls all these things which the translator needs, right, and puts them together within the same window, so that you don't have to move out, go out, get out of your get away from your desk, right, and do, search for something else, right? Here you sit in your desk and you get everything on your system, right, whatever is needed, right? So this is a typical CAT tool, and what we are trying to look at today is the like OMEGAT, right? This is how the interface is. I hope you are able to see this. Like maybe it looks a little small, but see, you will see that there is a main window. This is called the editor window, right? In this, like your translation, like the source segments will appear in as segments, right? So if you have a full text, a running text, but you can give, right, you can select that how it has to be segmented, like whether it has to be segmented word by word or sentences by sentence, right? So you can select those things and it will appear as segments. The source, right, the text will appear as segments against which you have to create a translation, right? So this is a text translated from Hindi to Tamil, right? You'll see at the bottom of the thing, like already, like whatever if I have produced a translation already, then the translation replaces the original, right? It is there like that. But if I'm still translating, then of course, whichever segment that I'm translating, it will show both the source and as well as what I have to translate there, right? We'll see the actual like the CAT tool now. Before that, I want to show you this, like tell you what it is, right? And you see on the sides, you have something called, this is what is called a fuzzy matches window, that brings the previous translations and brings it here for you to use it judiciously, right? And it says, okay, similar sentence was there in a previous translation, of course, with 3 words that were changed. So out of, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words, 3 words were changed, right? And you have a translation like that before. So it gives you a statistics. Okay, 8 words, 10, like 3 words are different. So this is 66% matching, right? And at character level also it can give you those things, right? And when you see the statistics, of course, you are always happy that you think that numbers are better to look at, so you are happy and you want to use them, right? And then you'll have to check the translation, of course, whether it is helpful to you, and you can use that. What we can achieve by this is, of course, we can reduce a lot of typing errors, right? For already verified translations, you can, right? Or if you are using them, then your typing typos and things like that will be reduced in your thing that you produce, right? Then there is a glossary that is available, and it is pulling whichever word that was in that segment, right? It is pulling glossary results for that, right? And it is also like giving a machine translation output, right? That is also possible. Machine translation output also can be brought here, right? But you have to now get the this thing. There is something called, you have to pay for the API, right? The interface, right? Google charges for it. That was the first thing I think Google charged, right, for a public use, right? And something like that. So nowadays they have all premium packages for different things, like different software, premium software. But this translator, like the API that they first sold, like it was the first one to be sold by them, right? Like that. So let us, right? So I have put the features again, but we'll directly, since we have less time, I'll try to go to the the other window, right? So which is the tool. I'm trying to now show you the tool itself to you, which is OMEGAT. Are you able to see the tool?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the typical OMEGAT, right? Tool. Okay. So you see the same thing that I showed in that slide, that you have the editor, main editor, then you have this fuzzy matches and glossary and machine translation, and those kind of tabs are available here, right? Machine translation is coming now, right? Sometimes it may not come, but in this case it has come, so you can see the result there, right? For that particular segment, the first segment that we are looking at, right? So this is an already translated one that I have here, but I'm just trying to show you for like demonstration purpose, right? So machine translation is available, and if you want to pull this window here, you can add it right here, and you can always see the machine translation. But I, as a translator, don't use it much, right, for my academic translation. So therefore, I put it there. So you can bring it here and keep it always on, right, for any kind of translations. So this is a typical, work. So I can go here and type and translate these things. Now, let me show you what is the benefit of this thing. Now, when you are translating like this, first thing I said that you have to translate, right? This CAT tool is not a translator in itself, right? It is the translator who translates. She can, use the translation memories. She can use the glossaries. She can use the machine translation, right? All those things, and you translate. But when something is translated, it becomes part of a database, right? It is part of a translation memory, so that can be pulled again whenever there are similar sentences. Now you see this fuzzy matches is coming, right? Let me make this window slightly bigger for this particular segment. The segment, I'll read the segment for you. In English, it says it's a letter, right? And we are trying to translate. It is related to my office only, like Central Institute of Indian Languages. Subject of the letter, right? I'm trying to put this letter before you so that you people are from the official languages department, and this will like be of use to you. So see the subject line, sanction for payment of water and telephone or broadband service charges of ERLC Bhubaneswar. ERLC is one of our language centers, right? And it is situated in Bhubaneswar regarding, right? So that is the thing. So it is sanctioned, right? Letter which goes to the whichever the seller, right, or the service provider, right? You see, I have another letter which I have already translated, right, and I've used, and that subject that had a subject which said, like in this fuzzy matches windows, you see, subject sanction for payment of cable and telephone or broadband. Here we have water and telephone and broadband service. There it was cable and telephone or broadband service, right? Charges of SRLC, that's another center, right? We have in Mysuru. So SRLC Mysuru regarding. So see, you see, like it is giving again. So it is giving that translation here, which I can simply pull from there, right? And then change it, right? Now what I have to change there, only 3 words. One is, instead of water, right, I have to, instead of pani, I have to put the word for cable, right, which we use cable for this purpose, right? And we have SRLC, right, Southern Regional Languages Center. So Dakshin Bharatiya, like that, if you want to write, you have to change that, right? Or if you want to keep SRLC, you can keep it in English, whichever is your office requirement, right? And Mysuru, of course, Bhubaneswar will change to Mysuru. So in this, between this, they say, okay, since how many, like, let's say the words count 3 plus 6 plus, another 3, 9, and okay, some 15, 16 words are there. So between these two, like 3 words changed. So there is a 91% match, right? Right, character wise and things like that. So you have a letter like this, which is like of the similar nature, right, which is very often very common in government offices, right? If you see the COVID related notices, released by government, every week, the new norms, right? It will start in the same way, end in the same way, right? Only a few changes in between, like, okay, more relaxation, like more restrictions, right? In this sector, more relaxation in this, and this is our aim for, those kind of things. So, like the format is the same, they are using the same thing, right? And few things are changed, right? Of course, the date is changed, right, in most of these things, and like they'll sound similar in nature. So those kind of information, if you see, right, they are very easy to translate, and the number of, right, like I said, mistakes in these things, right, will be less, right? Of course, if you do like oversight errors can be there sometimes, like the similar kind of sentences may be used with a totally different purpose. Here, the translator has to be aware of that. She has to take care of those things. That's why we are saying that this is not a translator in itself, right? Whatever is the decision as the translation, it is the translator who makes that decision, right? So in this, like you have things like this. So when you have a sentence like this, whichever segment that you are translating, right, it will show you the source segment of it, and it will show you the translation that you're doing, right? If you have not done any translation, you can have different options there. So the second segment, if I click on this, second one comes, right? First one, the source is replaced by the translation, right? So whenever I go there, it gives both the things. So even after, like many months, right, if I want to make a change, like, see, you can say that, okay, these letters are already with us. Why don't we directly use Microsoft Word, right, where we have this previous word, like previous letters, and we simply replace them. Of course, right, you can use them. If you're good at it, you use it. Whichever is convenient for you, use it. But the idea is, like, these translators are mostly used for localization purposes, like when the entire product, right, or app or something has to be, right, translated, then you use this, right? But in an office level also, right, it will be of use, because, like, even after, like few months, right, you want to use a letter that you have previously, like similar letter that you have translated, you can see both its source and its translation, right? You can always see the source along with the translation, so that you can make a better decision, right, what to do with your new translations, right? Whether you have to, what kind of translation it has to be, like if there is a need to change too much or not, like, you can decide your strategies based on, because you have the source, you can look at the source always, right, whenever you want to translate. And you can also add comments to your translation, right? Like you can add notes to your translation, right? Like I said, okay, this translation is incomplete. Like you see at the bottom, I've used something, this translation is incomplete, please revisit, right? So okay, for that, at that time, for that letter, right, it served our purposes, and we have translated it and sent it to the particular customer, right, saying that your bill has been sanctioned, you will be getting the money in this much date or this date or something like that. But, right, I have mentioned it here, and that's why you see, if I move out of the segment, it shows that, it gives a background, it highlights it with blue, right, saying that there is a note attached to it, right? So these things are at your end, like you can create, right, this kind of, right, signifiers, like you can put those markers, right, and you can have a better option, right? Okay, okay, like most of it has been translated, but there is something incomplete, so I need to look at it carefully, and then I have to use them, right? So you can create notes on this. Comments are, of course, which the provider, those who give the source content, they give you, right? You have then segment properties, it shows you the segment properties, and multiple translations are allowed, dictionaries are allowed, right? But dictionaries will be mostly right now for OMEGAT at least. You have something called StarDic, format. In that, Indian languages have there is no dictionary available in Indian languages. So, but you can use, of course, the source dictionaries like Oxford and all. It is there in that format. So, if you want to know the meaning of the source, right, like you can use those dictionaries. They are all downloadable. Now, like machine translation, of course, came for that first segment. So we can use that, right, if you want. And you see, there is always, like I'm trying to show you, this is the first, like what are the files that we have used, right? You see, there were two source segments, like source files, right? I had letter one. So when I knew that another letter came which was of the similar nature, I tried to use the same template. So I wanted to bring the second letter also into the same project, right? Or where that TM is available, where that translation memory was available, I'm using that, right? So to bring it here. So you have this first letter and second letter, which are of similar nature. Now you see, it gives us extra information, right? It is Microsoft Word. So this always will say it's an open XML format. Okay, that's the real, the thing, though it is .docx, extension. It is actually an open XML thing, document for this machine to use, this CAT tool which uses. Then you have 9 segments, right? In these 9 segments, right, unique segments in the first one, right, first letter are 9. All the segments, because it was the first letter, we say all are unique, right? There are 9 segments, right? In the second one, right, some 6 already matched with the previous one, right? Because it is already matched with the previous one, it says 3, right? Unique segments are only 3. So when you open this this CAT tool called OMEGAT or any CAT tool, for instance, they'll give you this kind of statistics. So you are either happy or sad at the beginning itself, like that, what is the amount of work that is required, right? Okay, there are 6 segments which are already, like they are already there, right, which are matching with some other things. So you need to, for 12 translations, you have to only translate only 6, right? If you produce 6, it will take care of another 6, right? At some level, if the domains are different, if there is a totally different meaning, of course, like I said, home, right? For home loan, they'll use home, and for like housewarming in South India, they'll use Griha Pravesh, right? So so you will, according to the domain, it will change. But if it is from the same domain, like in an office, like you are giving sanction orders, right? The domains are same, and if you have created those, like things from out of these things, you can use them, right, for your, like, you'll be happy to notice that, okay, there are between these 2 files, right, total, like in each file there are 9 segments, right? So there are total 18 segments, out of which 12 are unique, right? 9 in first, 3 in second, and 6 in the second are matching with the first, right? So this from the beginning. This information is always available at the bottom also, right? And you can use it. Now let me show you, right, how to set up a project here, right, in OMEGAT. So now you know the basic interface, how it is, right? And this one more thing before I show you how to set up a project, I'll show you this glossary also. This glossary, you may say, okay, where do we get this glossary? This glossary is actually produced from the first translation that we did. Okay, the first letter that we translated, we spent some time, right? And I and my colleague, we spent some time and created a glossary out of it, so that we know, okay, for every other letter that the office will issue, right, this kind of words like sanction, payment, these things will repeat, right? So we are going to use it in the same manner, right? So sanction, you have manjuri and svikriti, like those kind of things. So what to use, right, here, like in your office, what will they use? So you create a glossary out of it. So for instance, right, I want to use okay, let's say the word seva, right? Service, right? For service, I want to say this is not some other service, this is not the police or army service, this is service which is seva, like cable service or telephone service, broadband service. We say it is seva, right? We want to use in our office as seva. So what I have to do is I have to create a glossary entry. I used a shortcut, but what you can do is you can select the word, right, and right click on it and add a glossary entry, right? So when see, the entry is already there as source term, right? It is already available. Then when you want to use the target term, you have to select the target, whichever is there, right? And come back here and click on the target. See, you are not typing anything new, right? Your work is so simple, right? Service seva, right? You clicked on that, clicked on this, it created a source term and target term. If you want to add something as a comment here, like I want to say services, this is network service, right? I can say network service. No, okay, that is very obvious. So I want to say this is not police service. This is not army service. So I'll say not army service. I add that comment, right? So and I add that to the dictionary, not dictionary, the glossary, right? So that word you saw something got changed here, right? Let me show this. New service. See, we have one more term now added to it, and it says that comment. Like if I have 2-3 words for that, then like it will number it, right? Say that okay, this glossary entry 2-3 words. The comment is for the first word, right? Not army service, seva, but not army service, right? Like you can say that, right? So this kind of you can create a glossary also. Now let me show you. We have another 10 minutes maybe. I'll show you how to set up a project, right? So this is project window. You can open recent projects, like I have done recent projects, right? And I can create a new project since the project is already right there. So it is showing, but what I have to do is I close this, and this is my window. When I open like OMEGAT, it will show you this window, and it will show you also where I have to open this project and say I have to create a new project, right? See, OMEGAT also allows you to open MED projects. MED project is specific to European countries, right? Open MED project, it says, because they say machine exchangeable disburser, right? That's how they say, like anything that has to be translated or passed on to another thing which is in the soft format, they call it machine encoded and exchangeable disburser, something like that. They say, like we use this word in Indian Army many times, right? Okay, now see, new, right? I click new, right? And it wants me to show the location where I have to create a project on the desktop, right? Or let me say not on the desktop. I'll go to my computer, and on my G drive I say Goa, right? Language department, right? Official language department. Actually, the previous file that you saw as official language department, which we do this regularly, this presentation for the Rajbhasha Vibhag, right? They have auditing in different offices of theirs in different places. When they go for this auditing, the particular team actually has a small translation workshop also, right? Workshop where because now most of the things have to be produced in Indian languages, right? Especially in official language Hindi, right? In this GST offices and all. So they train them regularly, and they involve National Translation Mission in that to train these people, like in those things. So we have used that for that. Now I give a Go Official Language Department. I save this project, right? When I save this, it creates a new project, and it gives me you see information about source languages file, which is in which language, right? Which is in English US, right? And it's tokenizer. How it is to be like tokenized, like it is a running letter, or if it is a running text, it's a book or it's a poem, right? How do you want it to be segmented, right? That's the tokenizer, right? So we have like a particular segmenter here. There are many segmenters available. You can segment at different levels, like you see below. Enable sentence level segmenting. This is what I've kept on. If you unclick this, then it will segment it in word level also. But segment level segmenting means it will look at the segment ending markers. Like in English, We have a full stop, which is a segment ending marker. We have an exclamation mark, which marks the segment ending. Which if there is a question mark, of course the sentence is ending. So at all these places, it will create a new segment. So if by mistake, right, you have entered right dot or something, like if there is a website name, right, and which has a period, right, again, like you may think that okay, it will create a new segment for like .com, right, youtube.com, then you will say www dot one segment, youtube dot one segment, and com. It will not create like that, because English sentences will leave a space after that dot, right? So the period, full stop, is not simply like, it will take in consideration all those things. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not a very naive attempt. It is like there is a big team, and especially this OMEGAT is an open source project, and a lot of people are involved in it, and they always contribute. If you see their discussion groups, they are always with full of threads and new threads and problems and improvements and things like that. It's an open source effort, and if for an open source effort, so much people participate, right, and so much contribution is there, and so much improvement is there. Think about something which big companies are producing, which are earning money out of it, right? So they are of course making a better effort and producing better results, right? So you can use these tokenizers, and they will token according to that. And there is also, like you see, tags, right? Auto propagation of translation. Once you complete one segment, it will automatically go to the next one. Then you have tags, right? You can remove tags and add tags. This tags, when I say, like in OMEGAT especially, it will automatically add tags to the source segment, right? It will not be visible either in the source or in the target, right, that we are producing, but it will create invisible tags so that the formatting is kept, right, like the one thing. This is one of the benefits of a CAT tool, right, where you don't have to, like when you translate, right, like in Microsoft Word or something like that, you again have to format it, right, in the way you want. But in a CAT tool, you don't have to format it anew if you want to keep the source format. So the output will be produced in the same format, right? So there is a possibility of that, right? So if you have made something bold, this will be bold in the like target text also. Like if something is italics, that will be italics. If something is in 2 lines, it will be 2 lines. If the font size is more or smaller, right, that will be reflected, right? If the font is different, though, like many things can be like said about this. So it will add tags to it, and if you want to remove tags, sometimes the tags create very, like for you to translate, it creates a lot of irritation, like because you see them when you translate, so you may not want to see that. But in the target and the source, it will not be visible, like it will not add to that, right? Only in the like on the fly, like when it is translated here, it adds that and it uses that, right, to produce the translations, right? So the tags you can add. You see by this side, file filters, like what kind of files that OMEGAT can use, right? There are about like if you see the documentation, they'll say there are about 30 kind of documents, for file formats that OMEGAT can translate. So you will see all the popular ones are here, and if you see, okay, OMEGAT can do 30. Something which is like a premium service provider, a CAT tool provider, will be able to give more than 80 or 90 formats, right? And just for the namesake, like, or the number sake, they will add more like even useless formats into their list, so that they can show the numbers better. But for OMEGAT, which is an open source project, we have some 30 or something, and main ones like XLIF. XLIF is the main format that is used for localization projects, right, where you have all the source and the target are aligned, right, together. Then you have text formats, then subtitles. See, SRTs, you can SRTs is the subtitle, the RIP format, like that you can do for subtitles of videos, right? All this latex is there, like where you have formatting of equations and other things in your text you can do, right? All those codes will be retained, right? All that formatting will be retained. Like if you translate an SRT, like as a subtitle thing, all the time code will be retained, right? The time code will be retained. You will only be translating what is in between. So any adjustment to the time setting, you have to again go to the subtitle editor, and there you have to adjust the whatever changes that you have to do in the length and all those things according to the segment length. You can adjust in the subtitle editor and not here. It will retain the time code of the source, right? Just like that. Then YouTube subtitles also you can do now, like, because YouTube nowadays produces on the fly transcription for you, like whatever is spoken, it appears there, right? So those things, the captions, closed captions, you can on and you can use it, and you can download it and you can translate that also, right? So it makes things easy for this OTT format, like kind of serials and things which are all getting translated nowadays in Indian languages. I don't want to name them, right? Better. Like many of them are available in Indian languages. Their subtitles are always running, right, in Indian languages. Of course, then you have all these formats: Open Document and Java and things like that, right? So Mozilla DTT, right? DDT, right? Document type something, those things, right? All those things are already available. For the PDF input, of course, right? You can get a PDF input and you can get, right, an output from there. Like, so it has to be a readable PDF, right? And Quark Express, right? Like, which is for use for publishing, XHTML, right? Many of these popular formats that you need are available here, right? So you say that, okay, you say, okay, here I'm saying. Then it gives you a list of, places, right? Locations, right? Where this project file will be created, and inside that some more file folders will be created for, right? Some more folders will be created inside that project folder, right? So it is giving that location. Now I selected my G drive, and in that I created a name, Goa Official Language Department. That will be a main project folder, and in that it creates one folder called source, another folder called TM. So this source is where the source files will be stored, right? I have to import my source file into that source, and TM is of course where the translation memory, the previous file that I have translated, that TM, right, where it is aligned with the source, that can be kept there, and that will be automatically brought here, like if it is kept in that folder, right? If it is imported into that folder, that will be available in my interface, like when I'm translating the new letter here. Then glossaries. Glossaries, of course, you can bring existing glossaries here, or you can also create new glossaries out of your new project, right? So both can be done. Creating glossaries is very easy, right? It is just a tab, differentiated document. Like you have the source word, and you give a tab, and you add a target word and save it as a Unicode text, right? If you save it and keep it in this glossary, it will automatically access that, right? Whenever the segment which has that word is translated, these things will appear here, right? So that is one thing. Then that is the glossary thing, and this is the glossary file name, glossary.txt. If you want to use some other name, it will be. So if you add more glossaries to it in your window, when you translate it, you will see the translated, the glossary word from this project will be highlighted in bold, right? Other glossaries that you're using will of course be available, but this project, glossary will be coming in bold, right? So that is also there. Then you have dictionary folder where you can keep the dictionary. Right now I said only English dictionaries are available. Then you have the target folders, right? So you say, okay, this is created. Now the next window comes where the project files, right? You don't have any project file right now to translate. So you have to import the project file. So I say copy files to source folder. So I have to now see where is my thing, and I have to use, right, my thing where from wherever I select, I have to use that. What is that? Like I have to bring that source file here. So let me show you one source file, right? And I have a source file. Okay, here in this folder, then I keep them on my desktop. Okay. So that is available here. I bring 2 files, of course. I hope you are still looking at my presentation. Okay. Okay. So this file. Okay. I'm trying to now get the source file copy. I say source file and I go to my desktop and I have I want to choose this template translation source 3 which I have used in that, right? So just because I want to show you how it works. Okay, I have one. Then I want to import one more, the second one that I said, right? How it can be used. So I'm going again to my desktop, right? And I'm importing the second file. So I have 2 files to translate now, right? They have appeared here. Again, it gives the same statistics because I'm using the same file, right? It is giving there are total 18 segments, 12 of them are unique because there are 9 in the first, and just for ease of understanding, I'm using the same thing for you to know. Okay. Then second one, of course, only 3 are unique, 6 are matching with the old one, and I say okay, close this. Now I see that segment here. Now you see, because I have not added anything, right? And I have not translated anything, so nothing is available in my fuzzy matches or in glossaries, right? So this is what that it will appear like this. So I can go and translate here, right? In each of these things, I can go and translate here, right? So if you see, okay, yeah, I can go back now. I can translate like I did in that, right? I can copy those things, but now I want to show you the remaining things here, right? So once you translate this file, you can create a translated documents. Like you can create only this document, the first letter, or all the letters that you have translated, right? And it will come in the same format, right? I don't want to move out of this window, right? Because otherwise I have to show you that Microsoft document. So right now I'll just show you, like I'll tell you that this is the option for create documents, right? So you can create that. Then you have see edit, right? So edit, undo last action, redo last action. Of course, Control Z, Control Y. This you are familiar with, right? You have replace with match or selection. So this is from the fuzzy logic, the TM, right? That you had for fuzzy matches. The TM that you had. If there are more options, right, you can replace it, right? You can just simply use a shortcut, or you can select that and replace with match or selection, right? You can replace with machine translation. You can replace with source, right? You want the source itself to come there, right? Then you see, you can add tags to it. Like I said, the formatting tags that can be used. Then you can export selection. You can create glossary entry, right? You can search the project. This is one thing very much useful, especially when you translate languages like the South Indian languages, right? Dravidian languages like Kannada or Tamil or anything like that, because we join lot of these post positions together, right? My time is up, so I'll just actually ghar mein, we'll write it together, right? Maneyalli, right? It will not be different, right? So in that sense, right, mane may sometimes change, right? Those form itself will change, so you may not be able to directly search that particular like a target word, right? Sometimes when you want to search it, but you can also search the source. So you can always search home and go for that home word, right? You can always say so gar mein, right? Garein, like if something changes there, right? Gar becomes garein, right? Re is added, or something like that, A is added, if the source, like if the target, like the form of the word changes, you can still, even if you don't know what form it has changed, you can go to the source word and all the instances of that home, its translation, you can see, and you can replace it, you can edit it, you can see where, how it has been translated, whether you want to translate something new. So you can do those things. You can create empty translations, right? Something which you don't want to translate, you can say empty. I'll go to the next one. Okay, so new translated segments, next segment, all this one by one you can go, right? You can use the shortcuts, right? And you can use notes, right? And the notes you have created, you can go to the previous note and the next note and those kind of things. Then you see, like view, of course, right? You have this, like I said, the notes that I created for that particular segment, I created, it appeared in blue, right? So you can mark that, you can select those things. It can give statistics for you, right? All the statistics of this project, the total remaining, right? What you have translated, what is remaining, that also you can give it, right? And what is remaining among the unique, right? All those things you can create. You can do that. And the last one, right, I want to show you is, like, this is important, preferences, right? You see machine translation, you can select whichever you want to choose, right? And and of course you have to pay for some of these premium services, then glossary lookup, dictionary, all those things. But file filters, segmentation editor, this you can access from preferences also. So when you say preference, then you have general preferences, use tab to advance, right? Like move from one segment to another segment. What should be used in machine translation, glossary, all those things which we saw separately, it can come, and you can say this font that will be used. Like I've said, Arial Unicode MS, because I'm using Indian languages in my translation, I'm saying font is Arial Unicode MS, right? So which accommodates all the fonts, right, in Unicode format. So I'm using that. And you can change this, like file format and segment setup, right? Everything you can change here. External search, editor. Now editor, right? This is another important preference that you have to select. First is, like, when you have selected one particular segment, like you saw in my translation, it was empty right now, right? It is empty. So because I've chosen leave the segment empty. If I say insert the source segment, because I know some of the source words are to be like always retained in my translation, so I can do that, right? Insert the source text. So the source text also will appear in the translation, and I have to only change the other things. So that is one thing. Some people may choose that. And insert auto propagate. Like if in the TM, if something is already matching, and I can create an auto propagate, it will automatically, like the pre-translate option that we talked about, that can be done here. So it will bring all those which are matching in the TM, and it will add them here as translations. And it will also create, like I can create a threshold for it. Like if it is matching 65%, bring it here. Then I'll edit it. Or if it has to be 90%, highly important document, so it has to be 90%, I can create 90% threshold. So only those matches which are of 90% will be brought here. Then we have, you can add a prefix to it just to mark that you have, this is from the TM. So I have said fuzzy, so you can do that, or TM, or anything that you want to add. And you can create some of these things you can do. Because time's up, I want to tell you that OMEGAT is an open source software. You can download it and freely, and you can use it for free. But the popular ones are, some you can go and search in the web also, cat tools. Then I don't want to promote them, from this platform. Of course, then you can use them. Then some of them are online, right? So you do it online. So some of them are crowdsourced, like, many, like all these cat tools, most of these cat tools can create team projects for you. So a team of people can together work on different files, or same file. If it's the volume is more, then team of you can sit together and you can translate and share the same file, and the project manager can create those things for you, and you can do those translations. So like that, direct online things are available. Many are using that, and some companies especially, they have their own right? CAT tools, and they don't let others use it, and some of them are not even known to the outside world. Very big companies, like things like that, like Google, for instance. Some time back they discontinued, some 3 years back they discontinued their Google Translator tools, right? They have not introduced anything new after that to the outside world. So things like that. So different people might be using different things. And if you have any questions on using this, of course, outside this meeting also, you can always be in touch with us, and you can get any help at any time with National Translation Mission. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. If there are any questions, I'll attend to it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your session on CAT tools, and also guiding us through the process of this OMEGAT tool. There was one question which I think you have already answered. Which are the tools which a amateur or a budding translator can use for free of cost? So
Yes.
OMEGAT is the one which you suggested.
OMEGAT, Word Fast Anywhere, that is online. Then MateCat online, that is free, right? So those things can be used. You can simply search on the web and you'll find a lot of them. I should not recommend anything from this platform. So.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And there was a connected question whether it requires internet facility, or it is just you have to just download it and use it as a software.
Yeah, OMEGAT, to produce a translation, you don't need internet, right? Like produce your translation, you don't need internet, right? Because the glossaries are not online, the glossaries are produced by you, right? The TM matches that you get, right? Translation memory matches, which they are from your previous translations. So if you have access to your previous translations, you keep them on a location which you can access, then you can simply use them, right? But for getting that machine translation help, right, which are online machine translators, right? So those things you need internet connectivity if you want to use them. Like for me, like for my academic translations, I don't use many of them. I don't use them at all almost, right? So I don't need them. I need glossaries, right, which are prepared by the state language department and things like that, published by those people or commissioned for scientific and technical terminology, because I use mostly those kind of, my translations are like that. And if I'm doing localization work, then my glossaries are produced by, given by that company. So localization work, right, for their own purposes, they'll ask you to log into their own systems and work there, right, because they don't want to share the source files with you, right? So if you're like for your own translation, you don't need online connectivity as such, unless you want to take help of machine translators. But if you want to work with the localization vendor, right, somebody with another company and doing all this localization, then for them it depends on their systems, right? They may not share the files with you directly. They may not send it by email or something for you to work on and reproduce them. They may not send any glossaries to you. They may want you to log into their own translation memory, CAT tool, and they may want you to work online. So in that case, you may need connectivity, and a faster and better connectivity.
Okay. Thank you, sir. There's last question regarding localization.
Yeah.
This is just a query that when a translator is dealing with localization, and there are keywords or phrases, for example, Google, Microsoft, YouTube, Facebook. So whether to transliterate them or whether to keep it as it is in the source language, which is English language.
Yeah, since you mentioned localization, let's say we are localizing the Google product that you mentioned that name, right? So they will like to keep Google as such, right? And it depends on their instructions, of course, right? But in most cases, they'll like to keep their trademarks, right, as they are, right? Because like Google also is not simply a name, right, which means that it is 1 billion searches or something like that, right? It is not just a name; it is a brand, right? So it has the brand connectivity to it, and its name itself is a logo for them, right? It has different colors, right? Wherever you see the word Google, this is Google, and where it is like in different colors, that is not Google, right? So that. So in those kind of places, of course, you cannot translate it. They'll not allow you to translate. Whoever is your PM, project manager, who has assigned you the work, they'll not ask you to. They'll give you these instructions, right? With that, right? So it depends on those instructions.
Okay. So that's also for questions today. Thank you so much, sir. If you have any final comments, we can take your comments.
No, that's what you can use anything that suits you, right? And you can don't hesitate to use it, right? Use it judiciously, right, to your benefit, right? Because these are used for our benefit, so we can definitely use it, and it will be helpful for future generations also, right? So, like I said, you leave your chair and go, right? Another person sits there. Another person need not get familiarized with everything that you started from scratch, right? So there will be continuity in work and things like that. So it will be mostly helpful if you use it judiciously. So that is what I recommend.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for demonstrating the
Yeah, just
CAT
one word.
tool.
Thank
Yeah.
you, all the organizers, you and like other people, the technical people attached to it, and giving me this time and patience. Like, thank you for all that, and organizers also. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So with this, we wind up with our today's session. We have last session, which is on 6th of September, Monday, by Dr. Tariq Khan, the officer in charge of NTM Mysuru and also lecturer cum junior research officer of CIIL. The topic of the session would be translation in complementary role with literature and linguistics. The session is on 6th of September. सगळ्यांक देव बरें करूं. आतां हांव विनंती करता राजभाषा संचालनालयाचे कनिश्ठ भाषांतरकार महानंदा पागी हांचे कडेन तांणी उपकाराचे उलोवप करचे. तुमकां सगळ्यांक देव बरें करूं. हांव स्नेहा सबनीस आयज तुमचो निरोप घेता.
I'm here to propose vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Winston Cruz for introducing translation tools to us. Knowledge of these computer-aided tools will surely help translators in translation process. Secondly, I would like to thank team of experts at National Translation Mission, Central Institute of Indian Language, Mysuru, and all academic faculty and staff of CIIL Mysuru. तशेंच गोंय सरकार राजभाषा संचालनालयाचे सेक्रेटरी, डायरेक्टर, असिस्टंट डायरेक्टर, वरिष्ठ भाषांतरकार, टेक्निकल एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव्ह स्टाफ हांकांय हांव देव बरें करूं म्हणटा. तशेंच लायव्ह स्ट्रिमींग होस्ट पलाश अग्नी स्टुडिओ हांकांय हांव दिनवास दिता. हे व्याख्यानमाळेक प्रसिद्धी दिवपी प्रिंट आनी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मिडिया हांकांय हांव देव बरें करूं म्हणटा. तशेंच व्याख्यानमाळेंत भाग घेवपी सरकारी कर्मचारी, विद्यार्थी, शिक्षक, भाषांतरकार हांकांय हांव देव बरें करूं म्हणटा.